morning or good afternoon once again. I have a few remarks I want to share as we think about the future and we think about the next 5 years. It's a very interesting theme, positioning Africa's fintech ecosystem to accelerate inclusive growth. A lot of time, there's everyone is always talking about growth, growth, and growth. But in fintech, I think we see a lot more expansion and moving into different areas. And I think an area we need to focus more on is actual growth. Growth from the perspective of deepening into what we're already doing to actually accommodate a lot more players, a lot more people, a lot more verticals into what we're doing today. It's a privilege, like I said, to be here at the Nigerian Fintech, where we come together to discuss how we can accelerate inclusive growth through fintech in Africa, fintech in Nigeria. The question we need to keep asking ourselves is the growth we are seeing in fintech inclusive enough? Is it inclusive enough? Fintech continues to boom. It's booming. Over $4 billion inward investments in the last couple of years. And but those monies are focused a lot on e-payments, e-commerce, payment enabling, and all of that stuff, which is the very good stuff in terms of consummating transactions. But are we not focusing on other areas? 90%, for instance, in 2022, there was a report by McKinsey that emphasized the fact that 90% of transactions in Africa are still predominantly cash. This tells us there's a lot of ground to still cover. If we bring it to Nigeria, if we look at the landscape of Nigeria, there's a lot of fintech activity in Nigeria, in Abuja, and recently some of which we have actually taken into Kano and Kaduna. But there's still a lot of regions in Africa, in Nigeria, that are still not well spoken for. We need to continue to broaden our focus. It's easy to focus on the, heavily invested, heavily active hubs in Lagos, the fintech powerhouse, but we need to ask ourselves, are we spreading the benefits across Nigeria? You might say, but the infrastructure is there, or the returns on investments are there, but it's not always about return on investments today, because we have to think about return on investments tomorrow. We need to do what we need to do today so that 20 years from now, some of you can be here talking about what you've created over the 20 years or what you've enabled over the last 20 years to get Nigeria to where it is now and where it ought to be. We in the private sector, particularly, let's focus a bit on private sector now. We in the private sector must step in, investing in digital infrastructure. We're already doing that. We need to continue to invest in digital infrastructure, digital literacy, and creating fintech products that cater for every single Nigerian individual and every Nigerian business. Beyond regional expansion, let's talk about industries that fintech has not fully tapped into. There's a lot of activity, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of movement, but we need to hone it, like honed into payments, e-commerce, marketplaces. Agriculture is one of them. A lot of exciting stuff can happen in agriculture. Healthcare is also one of such. A lot of exciting stuff can happen in healthcare. It's happening in other regions. Real estate. I see a lot of creative thinking, high-level creative thinking going on in real estate now, but we can own it and figure out how to digitize every aspect of that value chain and bring it home for transparency, for ease of understanding and ease of participation. Just to name a few, these are some of the things we also need to look at. These sectors are also established to be very, very critical to our economy, yet still not as focused on as it ought to be. The perception is usually they are not investable, but if we aim for true inclusive growth, fintech needs to provide solutions that solves the problems in those sectors. That's what we really do. We build solutions that solves our problems. That's where in fintech, there are aspects of electronic payments in this part of the world that has blown out other more advanced economies in the world in terms of participation, in terms of innovation, and in terms of transaction success and transaction spread. So my charge to us today is to be open and to continue to collaborate and be flexible in how we build our fintech products. There's a math we do in my company. We call it the inconvenient math. When you think about Nigeria's population, some say 200, some say 250. Let's keep it at 200 for this argument. And with the numbers we see around, about 140 million telephone subscribers today, mobile phone subscribers today, 140 million, 200 million Nigerians. And then based on information we have as well, for the sake of this discussion, we have about 60 to 65, maybe 70 million BVN, active BVN accounts. So it's easy to say 65 million Nigerians operate daily transactions from their bank accounts. But you have 140 million Nigerians who buy and sell through their mobile phones. That money is not in the banking sector. Those people are either unbanked or underbanked. For me, that is the opportunity in the marketplace. That's the opportunity Nigeria presents. That's what gets us at eTranzact excited every day. That's what keeps us up at night. That's what gets us up every morning to go to work and figure out how to tackle that 70 million and how to include them. My challenge to us is just 1 million of those people, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million of those subscribers can activate the next level of growth and inclusion for Nigeria. How do we position? How do we think about it? We are ready to collaborate. We position ourselves as a super fintech, ready to collaborate and take on all the ideas you have. However it is, our doors are open to see how we can help, assist, and collaborate together to ensure that every Nigerian, every business is financially included so that we can create the success we see and tackle all the opportunities we see in the country. Thank you very much for listening. God bless Nigeria and congratulations to FinTech.